A simple sentence consists of a single independent clause. An independent clause must have one or more subjects, one or more verbs, and a complete thought. Shua bought a car. Here, Shua is the subject and bought is the verb. Juan and Charlie ran to the store. Here, Juan and Charlie is a compound subject and ran is the verb. Lily showered and went to bed. Here, Lily is the subject. Showered and went is a compound verb. Mike and Bella sang and danced. Mike and Bella is a compound subject. Sang and danced is a compound verb. You can use your sentence joining chart to help create compound and complex sentences. The coordinating conjunctions are best remembered with the acronym FANBOYS. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. As we will see, coordinating conjunctions can be used to join independent clauses to create compound sentences. They can also be used to join words and phrases. Coordinating conjunctions can be used to join subjects. Marcus and Armando study together every day. My dad or my sister will pick me up from school. Neither Susan nor Letisa eat fish. Notice that when the conjunction nor is used, it is often accompanied by the word neither. Coordinating conjunctions can also join verbs. We swam and fished in the lake all day. He will watch a movie or read a book. She will suit up for the game, but not play. Coordinating conjunctions can also join objects in a sentence. Lola reads poems and short stories. Jonathan plays football, but not basketball. Vladimir drinks neither soda nor alcohol. Once again, notice that the word nor is accompanied by the word neither. In addition, you can use coordinating conjunctions to join phrases, such as prepositional phrases, as in the sentence, the girl went over the river and through the woods. Or participial phrases, as in the sentence, confused by the assignment and frustrated with her grade, Julia went to talk to her instructor. While all of the sentences we just looked at use coordinating conjunctions, none of the coordinating conjunctions join two independent clauses. In fact, all of the sentences we have just looked at are simple sentences. We will now take a look at how to use coordinating conjunctions to create compound sentences. A compound sentence can be created by joining two independent clauses with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. To review, an independent clause needs a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. To create a compound sentence with a coordinating conjunction, follow this format: independent clause, comma, coordinating conjunction, independent clause. Remember that coordinating conjunctions are best remembered with the acronym FANBOYS. Here's another way to look at it. I see, comma, fanboys, I see. Now, let's take a look at some sentences. Ahmed brought some salad, and Ivan brought some bread. Here, Ahmed brought some salad is the first independent clause. Evan brought some bread is another independent clause. The word and, along with a comma, joins the two independent clauses together. Ahmed brought some salad is an independent clause because it could stand alone as a complete sentence. The same is true for Ivan brought some bread. Tiffany loves school, but her sister hates it. Tiffany loves school is one independent clause. Her sister hates it is another. The two independent clauses are joined together with the comma and the conjunction but. Lamar does well in school, for he studies hard. Lamar does well in school is the first independent clause. He studies hard is the second. The two independent clauses are joined together with the comma and the conjunction for, which shows cause. I better get home or my parents will be angry. I better get home is the first independent clause. My parents will be angry is the second independent clause. The two independent clauses are joined together by the comma and the conjunction or. Traffic was heavy, so I was late to work. In this compound sentence, traffic was heavy is the first independent clause. I was late to work is the second independent clause. The two independent clauses are joined together with the comma and the conjunction so, which shows effect. Vince plays quarterback. Samuel is a receiver. Vince plays quarterback, and Samuel is a receiver. The conjunction and is an appropriate conjunction because the two ideas are being added together. Amelia trained hard. She did well in the race. Amelia trained hard, so she did well in the race. Here, the conjunction so is a good conjunction because the second independent clause is the effect of training hard. Eve failed the exam. She did not study. Eve failed the exam, for she did not study. Here, the conjunction for is an appropriate conjunction because the second independent clause explains the cause for Eve failing the exam. Isaiah went to the store. He could not find what he was looking for. Isaiah went to the store, but he could not find what he was looking for. Here, the conjunction but is an appropriate conjunction because the second independent clause contrasts with the first independent clause. If Isaiah goes to the store, he would expect to find what he was looking for, but he did not. In this sentence, the coordinating conjunction yet could be used instead of the coordinating conjunction but. Yet and but are both coordinating conjunctions that show contrast. Winnie will buy the book. She will borrow it from the library. Winnie will buy the book, or she will borrow it from the library. Here, the coordinating conjunction or shows an alternative. The idea in the second independent clause offers an alternative to the idea in the first independent clause. You should eat healthy foods. You could end up with heart disease. You should eat healthy foods, or you could end up with heart disease. Here, the coordinating conjunction or is used differently than it was in the previous sentence. Here, the word or is used to show the effect of what could happen if you do not eat healthy foods. You will remember that the coordinating conjunction so also indicates an effect. However, the coordinating conjunction so indicates the effect of doing something, while the coordinating conjunction or indicates the effect of not doing something. Compare these two sentences. You should eat healthy foods so you can avoid heart disease. You should eat healthy foods or you could end up with heart disease. The first sentence shows the effect of eating healthy foods, while the second sentence shows the effect of not eating healthy foods. Ibrahim does not watch television. He does not play video games. Ibrahim does not watch television, and he does not play video games. We've already discussed the use of the coordinating conjunction and to join ideas together. There is another way to join these two ideas together, though. We can join these two ideas together, which are both negative ideas, with the coordinating conjunction nor, as in the sentence, Ibrahim does not watch television, nor does he play video games. Notice how the structure of the second independent clause needs to change when we use the word nor. Using coordinating conjunctions is not the only way to create compound sentences. Separating independent clauses with a semicolon is another way to create a compound sentence. To create a compound sentence with a semicolon, follow this format: independent clause, semicolon, independent clause, period. Here are some examples. Sang has big plans after graduating. He wants to go to medical school. Liz hates pasta. She never eats it. Franklin bought a new car last month. He drives it everywhere. In each of these sentences, two independent clauses are separated by a semicolon. Of course, a writer could choose to separate these independent clauses with periods, creating two separate sentences. Both formats are grammatically correct. A writer makes a purposeful choice to use a semicolon if he or she feels that the two independent clauses are closely connected. However, a writer should avoid the overuse of semicolons. You can also create compound sentences with transitional expressions. You will find a list of transitional expressions on your sentence joining chart. Looking at your chart, you will see that some of the transitional expressions are used to add or join ideas together. Some of the transitional expressions are used to show contrast or alternative. Some of the transitional expressions are used to show time or sequence. Some of the transitional expressions are used to show example or emphasis. Some of the transitional expressions are used to show cause or effect. And finally, some of the transitional expressions are used to make a comparison. To make a compound sentence with a transitional expression, use the following format: independent clause, semicolon, transitional expression, comma, independent clause. Once again, you can use your sentence joining chart to make compound sentences with transitional expressions. Roberto is taking 17 credits this semester. In addition, he has a part-time job. Roberto is taking 17 credits this semester is the first independent clause. He has a part-time job is the second independent clause. The two independent clauses are partially separated with the semicolon and joined together with the transitional expression in addition. Notice the comma after the transitional expression. The transitional expression in addition could be replaced by the transitional expression furthermore, additionally, or also. Once again, your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that can be used to join ideas together. Clarice drove as fast as she could. However, she did not make it on time. Clarice drove as fast as she could. Nevertheless, she did not make it on time. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to contrast two ideas. Since Clarice drove as fast as she could, we would expect her to make it on time. However, she did not. Madeline loves playing sports. In contrast, her brother hates sports. Madeline loves playing sports. On the other hand, her brother hates sports. The previous sentences also use transitional expressions to show contrast between ideas. Your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that show a contrast or alternatives between ideas. He tried for weeks to pass the next level. Finally, he did it. He tried for weeks to pass the next level. Eventually, he did it. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to show a passage of time between two ideas. She plans to become a doctor. First, she needs to go to medical school. She plans to go to medical school. Later, she will become a doctor. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to show a sequence of events. Your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that show a passage of time or a sequence of events. My daughter loves vegetables that grow in the ground. For example, she loves carrots, potatoes, and onions. My daughter loves vegetables that grow in the ground. For instance, she loves carrots, potatoes, and onions. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to provide examples. My daughter loves vegetables that grow in the ground. Of course, carrots are her favorite. My daughter loves vegetables that grow in the ground. Undoubtedly, carrots are her favorite. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to show emphasis. Your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that provide examples or show emphasis. Tabitha did not sleep well last night. Therefore, she fell asleep in class today. Tabitha did not sleep well last night. Consequently, she fell asleep in class today. Tabitha did not sleep well last night. As a result, she fell asleep in class today. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to show effect. Your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that show effect. Dante's father is a teacher. Likewise, Dante's uncle is a teacher. Dante's father is a teacher. Similarly, Dante's uncle is a teacher. The previous sentences use transitional expressions to make a comparison. Your sentence joining chart highlights transitional expressions that make comparisons. To create compound sentences with transitional expressions, remember the following format. Independent clause, semicolon, transitional expression, comma, independent clause, period. Do not forget the comma after the transitional expression. A complex sentence consists of an independent clause and a dependent clause. To review, an independent clause contains a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. In other words, an independent clause can stand alone as a complete sentence. A dependent clause contains a subject and a verb. However, there is not a complete thought in a dependent clause. Think of independent clauses and dependent clauses like this. Something that is independent can be by itself. Something that is dependent needs something else with it. Be aware that dependent clauses are sometimes called subordinate clauses. The terms are interchangeable. Dependent clauses begin with subordinating conjunctions. Your sentence joining chart offers a list of subordinating conjunctions. Use your sentence joining chart to create dependent clauses that can be used in the construction of complex sentences. Your sentence joining chart highlights subordinating conjunctions that show contrast or alternative. It highlights subordinating conjunctions that show time or sequence. And it highlights subordinating conjunctions that show cause or effect. To create a complex sentence, use either of the following formats: independent clause, dependent clause, period, dependent clause, comma, independent clause, period. Let's look at some sentences. Theo wants to go to college, although he hates high school. Although Theo hates high school, he wants to go to college. Notice the placement of the dependent clause in the first sentence and in the second sentence. These two sentences mean exactly the same thing. In both sentences, the dependent clause is in contrast with the independent clause. Sam and Mai plan to go to a movie after they have dinner. After Sam and Mai have dinner, they plan to go to a movie. Notice the placement of the dependent clause in the first sentence and in the second sentence. Once again, the two sentences mean the same thing. This time, though, the subordinating conjunction shows a relationship in time between the dependent clause and the independent clause. Here's another pair of sentences where the subordinated conjunctions show a relationship in time between the dependent clauses and the independent clauses. I need to take a nap before I can watch any more of this video. Before I can watch any more of this video, I need to take a nap. Notice in the first sentence where we begin with the independent clause, there is no need for a comma. However, in the second sentence, where we begin with a dependent clause, there is a comma. Saeed received a promotion because he has excelled at his job for over 2 years. Because Saeed has excelled at his job for over 2 years, he received a promotion. In these two sentences, there is a cause-effect relationship between the independent clause and the dependent clause. Once again, there is no comma in a complex sentence that begins with an independent clause, but there is a comma in a complex sentence that begins with a dependent clause. My team will advance to the playoffs if we win our next game. If we win our next game, my team will advance to the playoffs. In these sentences, we find a conditional cause and effect relationship. We will go to the playoffs only if we win our next game. Compare the previous two sentences to these two sentences. My team will not advance to the playoffs unless we win our next game. Unless we win our next game, my team will not advance to the playoffs. Once again, we have a cause-effect relationship shown in these sentences. However, this cause-effect relationship has a negative spin to it. Once again, don't forget to use your sentence joining chart to help create complex sentences.